Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Leadership Ready Room Chats. I'm Brandon Jenkins here with my co-host Tom, brother Murray. And this week, as it's been the case the last few episodes, Tom and I are having our weekly meeting, and something was just really resonating with both of us during that conversation. And it was a personal story, which was really energizing to kind of talk through with Tom, and the direct connections and implications for leaders. It's real. I could think back to many examples. Actually, so many that it was actually hard to pinpoint one professional example of when this was the case. And so we'll get into it. It's this idea of kind of wanting to be the fixer when you're in a position of leadership. And let me just kick it over to you, Tom, so you can kind of talk about the story that energized us yesterday.
Yeah, thanks, Jakes. So this past weekend, and as always, actually, when we're doing our Tuesday, meeting, we don't go in with an agenda, and so I do love that it's just kind of whatever comes up and comes out of that conversation. So this past weekend, my older son had a baseball tournament. He's on a club team, travel team, and played baseball through the weekend. I think 4 games over the course of the weekend. And I think it was maybe during the second game, 2 games Saturday. So during the second game, um, he has struck out several times in this game. Um, and he came and found me maybe between innings, or maybe there were a few batters before him still to go in the lineup. And he came and found me in the stands, and he got my attention, and he said, "Hey, Dad, what am I doing wrong?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, the last 2 at bats I struck out. What am I doing wrong? What do I need to change?" And I said, "Nothing." I said, "Don't change anything, pal. You're fine. You got it." And he said, "Really?" "Yep, you're good. Just go out there and hit. You're good." And he said, "Okay." And that's it. He walked away. There was no drama. He was stressed, right? He definitely wanted to have a better outcome at his next at bat, wanted to, help his teammates out. And I walked back, sat back down next to my wife, and I shared the conversation with her, and I couldn't help but reflect, nor could she, over how different that conversation went this past Saturday than it would have 6 months ago or a year ago. And to Brandon's intro, I think 6 months ago, maybe even 4 months ago, I would have tried to be the fixer. I actually felt a responsibility to be the fixer. And I feel very deeply that motive came from a good place. I want to help my son succeed. There's no ulterior motive. There's a 1 in a million chance he's ever going to be a Major League Baseball player, right? This isn't about trying to get him to the bigs. This isn't, so it's not financially motivated. I truly want to see him succeed, right? But the way that I would have gone about it before, while still coming from a good place, was wildly ineffective. And it was really hard to see that. He would come back, 4 months ago, 6 months ago, definitely a year ago. We'd have a baseball tournament, and he and I'd be riding home together. And I was that stereotypical fixer persona, but he wasn't seeking the input. He would simply have had a bad game, maybe. And I just jumped in and said, "You got to do this. You got to do that. You're late. You're changing your stance too much," whatever. And it never went well. 0% of the time. And then he and I would start to have some sort of frustration in the conversation. He would shut down. I would get frustrated. And then I'd go to my wife and say, "What am I doing wrong? I'm trying to help him." And so she gets a lot of credit here, probably all of the credit, because she would challenge me, and she would say things like, he just needs to know that you're there for him, right? He needs to know that it doesn't matter whether he strikes out. He doesn't need to be told what he's doing wrong. And so I've sat with that for months and months and months. And it felt like, for me personally, kind of a breakthrough this weekend when I said, "No, you're good, buddy. Just go out there." And um, not only did it feel better for me, he went out and the next two games had phenomenal success. Now, I- you were a baseball player, Brandon. I wasn't. So you can appreciate this better than I can. But it's a hard game. There's a million variables. Did our conversation influence the outcome? I don't know. But I do know that he approached those last two games with confidence, and the results were phenomenal. So, um, yeah, it just felt better all around. And I'm super proud of him for having confidence in himself. I'm super proud of him for knowing that he's got it. He's enough, and he can go out there and execute. Certainly our relationship, mine and his, is better because of this, because of the way that we're approaching it. So, yeah, being the fixer, Brandon, it's, I don't know, it feels instinctual for me. Um, and it takes effort to not lead with that sometimes. So I'll stop there and see what's coming up for you.
Dude, I love that story, man. There's to me, there is so much in there that I relate with as a dad, as an athlete, like you said, a baseball player, um, as a leader, both personally, and then you can see how that translates or could translate over into the professional realm as well. And, right off the bat, first thing that I notice when you're talking about it is, or that comes up for me, is context always matters. And we've said that before on here. Um, One way of being and acting and leading and deciding won't necessarily work in every single context that you are going to be in. And the same is true right now, right? Um, the first thing that I'm thinking of here as far as context goes is, what is it about people that are really close to you, like your kids, maybe your spouse, and then, right, maybe your close circle of friends, that it makes it's like you said it, you felt a responsibility. And I feel that too. Whereas with a colleague, maybe I would be a little bit better about, okay, before I jump in and try to fix anything, maybe let me ask a few questions and figure out what's really going on here. And then even when I know, maybe I have a way of doing it, and maybe instead of telling you how to do it, I kind of park my idea and see what other ideas you might have. And then that a similar situation happens with my kids, and all of a sudden I just feel this responsibility, like it's my job to protect them. It's my job to set them up so that they are, quote, successful when they grow up. Right. And then it's like, well, what does successful mean? Do they have to be exactly like me and do everything like I would do? Because if that's the case, then okay, I'll step in and I'll tell you exactly how I would do it, and try to tell you how you should do it. It's real, man. I feel it every day. I feel this responsibility to protect, to set them up, to, right. And then even as you get a ring out, spouse, friends, it just seems like there's more of an effect on your own personal world based on what they do, right? Like you just feel, for me, it's like, I just feel like, oh, I want to interject here because I know that whatever you decide, that's going to affect me, right? The closer you are to me in my world, that'll affect me. And right, I have this idea then that, oh, well, then I need to exert some control on this. I mean, we could probably go deeper and deeper, and but that's essentially it for me. Like, the context is with kids. It's like you just feel the responsibility to protect and set them up, and you want to help them, and you want the best for them, right? Um, yeah. So that's like the main thing that came up for me. I'll pause there to see if that jarred anything for you or
Yeah, I mean, your comment about the context matters is it could not be more appropriate. Um, so we talked about this weekend in baseball, and I tried not to be a fixer. I just tried to be present and supportive. Friday night, I rode bikes with my kids to go get ice cream. I was very much the fixer when my kids were like, "No, Dad, we don't need to use the lights on our bikes because we can see the cars." And I said, "Stop. You're absolutely turning those lights on right now." And I explained the purpose. It's so the cars can see us. Uh, right. So that's the context matters. There's plenty of times when you need to be directive, when you need to tell somebody they're messed up. And in all of these circumstances, regardless of the relationship. So, um, yeah, it is. Not only does the context matter, but you have to, like you said, you have to be aware of your biases, maybe. And I think, as you were sharing that, depending on who we're talking to, I may be more or less likely to do this. I do think it's the responsibility, right? There's this idea that I, I've got to, with your kids, with your spouse, with somebody close, like I owe you this. And maybe, like you said, with a colleague, there's just a little bit less of a sense of responsibility. Um, and I think for so many for you and I, for many of the people with whom we've worked, we believe that as in a position of leadership, that we owe everybody solutions, right? I think that ties into this. Oh yeah, I'm the boss, I'm the leader. You have a problem. Here, let me offer you a solution. And it probably ties to the fact that technical competence, got us to where we are. In many cases, right? We've talked about that before. And so it's an easy tie in to this idea of what got you here won't keep you here, or what made you successful in the past. I think there's a strong tie in there, especially in senior subordinate relationships where, yeah, I used to do the thing you do now. I was good at it. You have a problem. Here's the solution. And I think it, in many cases, stifles learning. And it removes confidence, or reduces confidence on the part of the doer. Um, but like you said, sometimes harder at home uh, than at work. What's the cost? We're hinting at it. What's the cost of fixing too much? What's the downside risk?
yeah. Um, Disempowerment is the first thing that comes to mind for me. And it's one of the reasons I think too, why how close you feel to the result mattering or how it will affect you in your world. It becomes more and more likely that you're going to want to instinctively step in. To kind of back to that context again. To me, the biggest cost of doing that, it's disempowerment and maybe taking away the chance for that person to learn and grow. And it, it's kind of like a mindset thing, right? It's when I have a mindset of the person across from me that they have everything they need available to them, that they can figure this out, that they got this. It doesn't mean I'm going to leave them stranded. It's the going in mindset that they I don't even know if they want me anywhere near trying to help them fix this, right? I have no idea at first. And so if my initial mindset is, hey, this person is doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing. So if it's at work, they are filling the role that you hired them to fill. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing on their team. They're in charge of the project because it's in their realm of responsibility and you thought that they were capable of doing it. And that maybe that's why they have it to begin with. If it's your kids, they're playing baseball, they have coaches, they have been practicing, they have had all the initial instruction, the foundational teaching. And so it becomes a mindset of this person, I care about them. They're on the team. I want them to do well, and I believe they're fully capable of doing it. And when you go into it with that mindset, then it is about them being empowered to do what they're there to do, them to have some agency. Again, that's empowering to me. And for them to be able to learn and grow, right? They're facing a challenge, and it's challenging and maybe uncomfortable because they don't already know the solution. They don't already know how to do it. And therefore, this is an opportunity for them to really figure something out here, to grow, to learn, to then be able to do this the next time it comes up, to handle it when maybe you aren't there and available for them, you know?
Man, I'd love to have a psychologist on here right now because um, I think that everything you said just resonated very deeply with me. This idea of, you said disempowerment, I went to ownership. We all see things differently, and when we offer too much in the way of solution, when we play the role of fixer unnecessarily, we are projecting all of our own biases onto the receiver. And I know a psychologist pretty well, so I'll run this. I'll fact check this later. But what I'm what's what I'm processing right now is this idea that if I say to my son, "Here's what you're doing wrong," I am ignoring the way that his mind works, which is different than mine. I am ignoring so much of that and just offering load earlier in your swing. Sure, maybe that's what he needs to do, but it ignores probably 99% of what's going on in his brain and the way he's perceiving the world and reacting to stimuli and trying to set himself up for success. Um, and I think for me, this is one of the challenges, this idea of this responsibility to help him, to help others. I think the challenge is on a pretty deep level here. When I say to him, "You're good, you've got it," one could perceive that as me leaving him out to dry. And I used to feel that way. If I just say, "You're good," I'm not helping him solve the problem. I didn't give him I didn't give him a solution. And so it almost feels like you're letting your team down, your team, your teammates, your colleagues, your family, whoever we're talking about. And in reality, we're giving them the confidence to go solve the problem in the way that works for them, right? Within the bounds of whatever structure you're operating in, of course. Um, and I think a good way to approach it, and I probably was better at this in the Navy than I am post Navy. I don't know about you. I'd love to hear your thought on that. I think the consequences of failure, this is tying back to your idea of context matters. If the consequences of failure are so great and you as the leader know that your solution will avoid the bad outcome, well, that's when you step up and say, "We're doing it my way." And when the consequences of failure or a negative outcome are palatable, well then, yeah, let's not be the fixer. I'll throw it back to you because this will very quickly turn into a 2-hour episode here.
Yeah. I think something important that maybe the audience, you're leading something, you're leading a team, and you're thinking, well, so then am I never supposed to offer any ideas, any solutions, any, quote, help the way maybe we've traditionally thought about it? And yes, context matters. And what I would say to that is it's the mindset of this person is fully capable of handling the role that they're in doesn't mean that they might not need some support from other people or other resources, right? So the mindset is more you're very capable and you have access to all the resources that you need both internally and externally. And guess what? If you're a leader, you are a resource in this person's life. And so I don't, Tom and I aren't saying you'll never, I mean, he already gave an example of riding the bikes, right? You'll never, we're not saying that you should never step in and offer yourself and your experience and maybe the answer you have or a solution. We're not saying that. We're saying the mindset is more of, let me start with, you got this. I have confidence in you. What's going on? What's the challenge? Right? Let me help better understand what's even going on with you. Maybe in the course of that, you'll actually figure out what you need to do next. And maybe you'll be like, you know what? I actually could use your help, right? Maybe the person sitting across from you will turn back to you and say, man, this has been really helpful. I see the challenge here now. And I think one area where you could help is X. And now as a leader, you have a better idea of, oh, okay, this is what you actually need me to do, not solve your entire problem, but maybe we're mid-level. And so we need to go talk to our boss to free up some resources, right? Or maybe we are the boss and there's some procedure or some rule that we have in place that's actually preventing them from doing something. So we need to revisit that. So the idea is it's like the starting point, the mindset going into the conversation is you got this and I fully back you up. So tell me, what is the challenge right now specifically for you? Right? Or something like that. It's just the way you approach it and get them talking, get them thinking. And now you're both learning from each other. And you might learn a way that you actually are a resource for them and you do need to step in and do something or provide an idea or whatever that may be.
Uh, as you're saying all this, what you just said, tying it back to this idea of consequence that I used a minute ago, it's almost like when something just needs to be done now, and we're more concerned about the short term solution, that's when you need to lean on the fixer side, which again should be tied to consequence in my mind. Whereas when we're more concerned about the long term solution as a leader, developing the team, developing the person, developing their capabilities, which will yield, if done correctly, will yield better results for them, for the organization. That's when we don't want to be the fixer. We want them to go learn. We want them to develop the confidence. We want them to figure it out. And as you said, maybe them figuring it out means coming back to their leader and saying, I could use help in this area. But that's very, very different from you as the leader saying, do it this way. The long-term growth and development of that person is so much bigger than most short-term solutions, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Right? The chaotic situations, emergencies, life or death. There are going to be situations potentially where that type of environment and the consequences, like you're talking about, are such that we just don't have the time or the space to try and fail or to try to work through it. There's some other constraints there that are making it so that we've got to do something now. And yes, there are absolutely situations like that, 100%. Right. And so then it becomes, I think, to your point, Tom, even more important for the leader than to be looking for the opportunities when they don't have to do that and they can step back and simply help the person across from them figure out what the challenge is, figure out what they need to do next, and be a resource, but not the fixer right away, like we've been talking about. It's very important for the leader then to be looking for that. And again, to me, it goes back to mindset. Starting mindset is, okay, I know what context I'm in. All right. And so I can afford now to be in this mindset of, hey, you got this. Let's figure this out together. What's going on? What's the challenge? What have you tried already? What happened? What'd you learn from that? What's the next step? Okay. And then you'll eventually you may or may not, you may get to a point where that person's like, man, this has been really helpful. I think I see what I need to do next. I'm going to go give it a shot. Or they may say, you may get to a point with this person, like I said before, where they're like, okay, yeah, I think I need your help here. And that's a much better spot then. You're not the fixer. You're simply one of that person's resources that you already went in knowing that they had access to, and they're simply now recognizing that I need to use you as a resource. And that's to me, then back to empowerment. I mean, I'm feeling it, man. Like that is very empowering for somebody. Um, because essentially you're sitting with them, you're holding the space, they know you got their back, and at the same time, they're figuring this stuff out. And they're like, man, I can do this. I do have what it takes. And that's just very empowering.
I'll I know we're just about out of time. First, this has been one of the more energizing chats we've had lately, and they've all been great lately. So, thank you for pulling this out of our discussion yesterday. I mean, this all started with us just doing a check in. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? What's on your mind? And I shared that we had a good weekend, that a lot of baseball. It is good. It is the way that I felt at the end of the weekend, as far as my relationship with my son, is reinforcing this behavior, this idea, this the way that you and I are talking about this. I believe in it even more deeply because at the end of this weekend, where we were out late, way later than normal, and we were running on less sleep, and so we started the week tired. But I feel like my relationship with my son is great. It's phenomenal at the moment. Whereas after many baseball weekends in the past, I wouldn't have felt that way. So that's one phenomenal outcome. And guess what? He changed his stance after our conversation. Normally, I would have been, in the past, frustrated with him. I would have said, stop. I didn't say anything. He went out, changed his stance, and proceeded to hit a double down the right field line and then a triple to the wall in back-to-back at bats. He figured it out on his own. I didn't tell him to do that. His coach didn't tell him to do that. And when we talked after the last game, I said, what did you do differently? He said, well, I felt like I was late, so I figured I'd widen my stance, and then I was on time. And now I think I'm going to do, again, the mechanics are not what we're here for, but he figured it out on his own in a way that made sense for him. And the results seem to be there. So I'm happy for him, and I'm thankful that he and I think, have a better relationship because of this. And man, the applicability just goes so far. I've talked a lot, so I'll give you the final couple minutes here.
Dude, that's beautiful, man. And like what what are the implications for other relationships, right? Teammates, right? What are the implications for how you two feel, you and your teammates, you and your son, you and your wife, you and whoever, after interactions like that? Something somebody else told me, I don't know who quoted this, but it's just a real short thing that has always stuck with me since I heard it. And it's just in the last like maybe 3 years, 3 or 4 years. And it was your telling is stealing my learning. And again, context always matters. But what I take away from that is when you step in and you immediately try to tell me what I should be doing, you're stealing my ability to learn from what's going on with me. To your point, Tom, your son, he's like, well, I felt like I was late. And so I just felt like I had to open up the stance, and then my timing was good. If the coach would have said, you need to open up your stance, think about it. Like, it takes away all that internal reasoning, reflection, and then experimenting and seeing the result of that experiment. That's what your son did. It takes all that away and just moves you straight to do this. And it steals your ability to learn. And then take that now and apply that out into your teams, your businesses, your companies. If somebody is telling someone what to do all the time, how are they ever going to learn what to do in similar but not exactly the same situations? And when are they going to learn to trust themselves? And when are they going to learn to tune into what they're feeling, what they're sensing, and then experimenting with that? They might not. And I think that is like a great spot to kind of wrap things up on for this week. Like you, Tom, super energized by this one. And to me, it's just a testament, dude, to like leadership, leading teams, and personal life. It's all wrapped up in there. It's like we've said before, this the idea of work-life balance. It's all one life. And everything you're doing in one area of it at home, for example, there are implications at work as well. It's not separate. And so I love when we have an example from personal life because it just applies to everything. And I think there's a lot of leaders out there listening who get it. So with that, I will wrap for the day and just say we had a blast. Thank you to everybody who tuned in live. Thanks to everybody who's watching this after the fact. If these conversations resonate with you, Tom and I would love to hear from you. Please reach out to us and join us next time on Leadership Ready Room Chats.